You are never too old to learn. One thing I appreciate about my residents that I've had the pleasure of serving is seeing how different everybody was and seeing how their approach to aging was so varied and so different, right? So I think about Mrs. R. Mrs. R and her husband lived in my community. And what was so interesting with her in particular is they had a computer in their apartment. Now, this is going 10 years ago, right? And Mrs. R had it set up that she could Skype and talk to her children and grandchildren and great grandchildren at night and update them through Skype. And she was just so technologically savvy. When her husband passed away and she moved into another state with her family, she would text me and she would put emojis, and they were always appropriate, obviously. But she was literally back then in her late 70s, like 79, 78. And I just think about the lesson that I learned from her, which was you're never too old to learn new things, and don't be afraid to make changes. Going from one city that was close to one family member and moving across the country to another at that age scares most older people. But for her, she's like very determined. And she was like, there's been great. It's been great here, but there's no reason for me to stay here. I want to be closer to my family out there. And then when it got to a certain point, and it must have been about 3 or 4 years later, she was like, you know what? I don't want to be out here anymore. I want to move back to Florida. And I think by then she had to be at what, 83, 84. A lot of times we see older people who are afraid of making changes, moving in from their home into a senior living community, or having people come into their home to help them, or, in case of an emergency, even leaving their home because an imminent danger is there. And they like, no, I don't want to leave. I'll be okay. And one thing I learned from Miss R was don't be afraid to take chances. Don't be afraid to make changes. If you don't like your situation in life right now, make a decision and change. And it goes so well with what my interview with Daniel Spitale is today. So you're going to experience this interview, and I hope it will bless you as much as it did me. Hello, friends. Thank you for joining me on the Outlive Your Life podcast. My name is Tiffany, and I am a passionate advocate for the aging and those who support them. To outlive means to live through or to outlast something. And there is no better place to learn about life than in senior living. With each episode, I will introduce you to a resident whose wisdom, experience, and life impacted those around them, and the valuable lessons we can all learn from them. Then, I will share interviews from those who are striving to make an impact in the lives of older adults every single day. We will discuss the path which led them to their career, how it has changed them, and why they are so passionate about outliving their life. So be ready, be encouraged, and be transformed. Maybe, just maybe, you will discover a new career path working with the aging as well. Let's go. Hey, everybody. Today, you're going to meet the first person I hired as a brand new regional director of sales in senior living. What is so special about this person is that he was not what I was told we needed for this community. He was not from the industry. He had no previous senior living experience. It was for a community that was opening a brand new memory care.
a community that was in a working class, blue collar area. It had the highest market rate. He was my quote unquote project hire. Well, needless to say, all eyes were on him and it was on me. Can I just tell you, family, he rocked it out. 100% occupancy in the memory care portion of the community and a highly occupied AL all in 1 year of starting. And he made it to the President's Club each year for the next 2 years. So I am so excited to have Daniel Spitale join us to discuss his journey, his challenges, and triumphs in
Well, thank
living.
you very much. That
Welcome.
was quite a welcome there. So I really appreciate it. I'm very happy to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you. So, kind of give us a little bit of a background.
I had I did nonprofit for a very long time, and of course I love nonprofit work because having that fulfilling end of the day feeling that you did something for the better of someone else. So I just really enjoyed doing nonprofit work, and I was doing marketing as well as special events. So it was great. Got to meet a lot of celebrities, but at the end of the day, once again, you were still raising funds for a little organization called Girl Scouts. So that was really fun. Of course, and humorous. Yeah, and humorous for a male to be
Very
in that
little.
position, but it was a good time. But of course, during that time of the year, or I guess in the last 10 years, that's when the I guess at the bottom of the market fall off the cliff and things kind of went south. So things like nonprofit was not a priority like it was previously. Unfortunately, due to that downsize, I was you know as exit stage left because they went down to a skeleton crew because it just wasn't a huge money moving market at that point in time, which was good, which put me into property management for a while. I did that for a few years because I was in nonprofit and doing event and fundraising. I was kind of requested to go to another nonprofit, which was the Center for Memory Disorders. So that kind of got me a little taste of helping seniors a little bit. Plus, it had my passion
Oh,
of doing
okay.
nonprofit work and doing something for someone else. And it still kind of kept me in that marketing role, but it definitely gave me a little hint of working with seniors that are aging and of course their struggles are dealing with Alzheimer's and dementia. So that was really a good fit for a while.
Would you say that was the crux of your
Uh,
living?
yeah, I got into property management later because at that point it was a very very small mom and
Oh,
pop nonprofit, which is a huge difference from something as large as Girl Scouts, as you can imagine. So after property management and really just hating it and just be feeling stagnant and I'm sure I'll get back to that word stagnant in a little while, but I just felt stagnant. I wasn't happy. It was a paycheck, and then something crazy happened, and I got cancer, and I got colon cancer at a ripe age of 36. That was unheard of. But a success, did well, survived, and been
wow.
completely great and healthy since then. But after that kind of, I guess, jaw dropping awakening experience in my life, I figured that I'm really tired of not living and just being stagnant once again and just being bored and going through the motions and just collecting a paycheck and not doing anything that's going to be challenging or fulfilling. So at that point, someone recommended that I look into Brookdale, and I said, well, that's crazy. What would I do working with seniors? It's insane. Then the more I got to think about it, I'm like, wow, if you really look at every one of my experiences in the past and my job history, they've all led me up to that point. And from marketing and doing events and doing
Mm.
something for someone else and seniors and memory care. So when the opportunity came knocking, I answered. And it's so funny because I've said this 15 times in the last 5 days is that one of my first bosses when I was real young, like we're talking high school slash college, and he told me something that stuck in my mind, and it was never pass up an opportunity. And so that's always just sat somewhere in the forefront
Mm.
of my thought process. And I kind of thought like, wow, I never really thought I would go in this career path, but it's just very interesting how things work out and what challenges are put in front of you for you to deal with and figure out. So that was it. So then, I guess long story short, I got this lovely opportunity with Brookdale, and after numerous interviews, I finally was there and I'm thinking, what am I going to do now? I had this whole brand new building, which was very exciting to be a part of. And I just kind of hit the ground running. And that's it.
So So back up. So tell us a little bit, what did that interview and hiring process look like?
I actually got a recommendation and I interviewed first, not for the community I was hired for. I was interviewed for a little town, of course, west of Orlando, and did about 5 interviews. And I thought they were all really well, really good. The one interview I was a little nervous about was the VP at the time, and I thought that she hated me. I thought it was a terrible interview, and I left out of that interview thinking, wow, this is never going to go anywhere. And lo and behold, I got a phone call about 3 days later, and they said, unfortunately, um, we didn't get the position to you. They gave it to someone else. And I didn't, at first I felt bad, but then I realized that the person was actually previously in that position and they had left the company but wanted to come back. So I'm like, okay, I can't really fault them for doing that. If anything, that says that they really value their employees, which is lovely. So then fast forward about 4 or 5 months, I got another phone call, a random phone call, and she said, hi, your name was put on my desk by a VP. And I said, of course, my first question was, what VP was that? And so it ended up being the same lady that interviewed me previously, and apparently loved me so much that she kept my name out there until there was a next opening in this area in Central Florida. So I was kind of shocked that A, she remembered me, and B, that the interview was good because I thought it was terrible. And unfortunately, I'm thinking this should be a really easy hire, and it was totally not the situation because I had 4 or 5 more interviews all over again, which is because it was a different district, and which is where I met you. I had a great interview, and it was a lot of hard questions. And I know it was you kind of already said the fact that you're taking a chance on someone who was in the industry, and I gotta be honest, that I didn't really realize how much of a chance that you were taking until numerous years later when looking back and seeing people who aren't trained properly and thinking like, how do they get this job? I have no idea. And it was a huge, and I've said to you several times, if it wasn't for you, if you didn't give me this opportunity, I wouldn't be where I am today, which is kind of lovely that it's all kind of full circle. And now here you are interviewing me as your success story. But yeah, there it is.
So tell me a little bit, how did you transfer your skills that you were doing
Um,
into
it,
senior living?
well,
How did that
a
look?
couple of things. I mean, first, I kind of look at sales. For all those people who are listening, don't take offense, but I kind of look at sales as common sense. Either you have it or you don't. Not just all sales. I think just you have to have a basic sales tactic and personality. I feel like there are different personality types, but I think obviously it's a lot easier for people to approach others when they're friendly, outgoing, and just charismatic and they're charming, which I mean, I come from the South, so we have to be charming. It's kind of a part of our upbringing, but hospitality is very, very important. So those basic, I think, like 101 skills, I think I just applied to whatever I was doing, even though not knowing much at all. And I think still learning acronyms in the business of assisted living. I was thinking at the time when I first started, like, this is way too much. I'm never going to learn all
Yes.
this. And I remember you finally said, oh, it takes you about 6 months. And of course, that made me feel better because I'm thinking, after for month one, I'm thinking I'm waiting for someone to slap me on the hand for not doing well. But um, I just kind of went out there and did my thing. And I think even not knowing a lot of the industry, I still presented myself well. I still carried myself and was friendly. And of course, a huge, huge part of any sales is listening. And luckily, those basic details or informations, or I guess strengths, provided me with enough information to move forward with the sale process. So that was the first basics is what I've applied from previous positions because I mean we're all human, so we all communicate and we have to. No one wants to talk to a machine, and they're not going to
Yeah.
understand how you feel. And so
Yeah.
that's definitely a human quality that you can't fake or pretend. You have to be honest with your people because at the end of the day, they're there to trust you, and obviously you're selling yourself first.
I find it very interesting that you said
Yes, ma'am.
hospitality is the Southern thing, and the two industries align so well.
Everyone that's in any type of business in their lives, they should do two things. One, be a server, and two, work in customer service. And I think if someone has not done those basic two things, then they just don't
That's
understand.
good.
They don't understand what work is and what hospitality is. They just have no idea.
Right. Okay. So tell me a little bit about working with seniors, because you said, oh my God, I'm going to be working
um,
with seniors.
Well, the residents probably that don't need much help or have a high acuity, that was always easy because you can have a conversation with them. But I will say, for a few weeks, seeing someone who might have been in pain. I think those first was a little bit of culture shock to me, like, wow, this is what I really do. But then as I started helping them, I'm like, this is just like my grandmother. And a little bit about my past, I was very, very close to my grandmother. I say this a lot in my conversations or discoveries, quote unquote, with families, is that I truly believe if my grandmother had been moved into or transitioned to an assisted living community, she probably would still be here. Because once again, small town, and there's not a huge
Wow.
options there. Or
Wow.
you're talking with the generations that don't move because that's just not what they do, how they were raised. And I think, like I said, she would still be here. I think she had dementia, and picking up on so many things that I learned in the ALF world that you want to apply to your own family. And I'll never forget, after the first few months, I called my mom and I said, all right, Mom, who's the power of attorney? Who's the health surrogate? Who's the health proxy? And where's the safe? Where's the keys? I'm like, you need to do it now. And so having that knowledge, because just the number of families that come in and have no knowledge, and which goes back to another part of the job,
Yeah.
is education. Once you do
Yes.
learn the skills and learn what all those acronyms are, you're just basically providing education to the families and obviously trying to find a solution for them. After a while, you look at any elderly person as a part of your family. And I know that it's said, and this is your extended family, and it's true, because these are the people that you see every single day. So you're going to care about, when Miss Martha's birthday is, and when so and so's husband
Mm-hmm.
passed away. It all
Mm-hmm.
becomes so natural to you, like your
Yes.
own family, and you just involve yourself in their lives because, quite frankly, you're one of the last people that they're
Yes.
going to meet in their time here on Earth. And so being a part of that and making those memories or creating something special for them, I mean, by all means. I mean, how wonderful is that?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm a little biased, of course, because I've been in it and I'm like you, have had it change my life. So it is. It's just amazing.
And your love for what you do and your
Mm.
passion, you take offense to things like that after a while. I mean, like, no, this isn't a nursing home. There's no doctor beds here. There's no hospital beds. And I think that's the biggest, I think, misconception. I mean, and quite frankly, when we were, not that we're aging ourselves, but years when we were younger, a nursing home was what? A death sentence. That's what people automatically assumed. And I remember I hated visiting the nursing home and school where you had to go because it was what? A lot of quote unquote old people. And it was just not a fun or pretty picture whatsoever. And the way the industry has just
Mm.
completely changed and just evolved to these kind of sections of assistance from independent to assisted to memory care and then skilled nursing if need be, if something ever happens. And once you paint that picture with your families, and I think that you see that little light come on, like they get it. And plus, they see the apartments, and I constantly say, listen, this is an apartment. This is an apartment community.
Right.
Just the only perk is we have nursing. I mean, that's what it is. And kind of being a reason that they open their minds up and see it and understand it is kind of rewarding in itself because they're not dropping mom off and seeing mom at Christmas time. It's not that whatsoever. And you still get those questions, can I come back and see mom? Like, well, of course you can. It's not a prison. Take her out to lunch. I mean, hell, I'll go with you. And so so you have to make it fun. And then once again, they see other residents having fun and enjoying themselves for whatever they're doing,
Right.
whatever's going on. And it's just, and I think usually the fear is usually worse than the bite. And sometimes we do hate change as much as you don't want to admit
Ooh,
it.
that's good.
So it's just a different part to explain and kind of be a part of, which is kind of cool.
Right. It's really interesting that you talked
Yes.
about fear and then the picture of aging.
Mm-hmm.
Because going into a nursing home back
Oh, no,
then,
of
like you were
course.
saying, people didn't want to see that picture of their future. And so now
Mm-hmm.
when people think sometimes because of misconceptions and
Oh, of
things like
course.
that.
You got to kind of, take that chance and go, and it's going to all work out and be okay. And it's funny because families tend to give me like the worst case scenario. Like, listen, mom's going to come in. She's probably going to cut you. She hates people, and I never forget, there's this one family that I moved in, and it was these two sisters, and they were hilarious. And they just painted this terrible picture. And they said, listen, mom is so evil that even the doctor waited till she was out the room before he told us that she had dementia. And they're like, why don't you tell mom this? And he said, well, I'm scared of her. So, but I kid you not. So of course you can imagine I had the entire staff ready. They were coming for lunch. I'm like, okay. And this one walked in and they wheeled her in her wheelchair. And she was like, oh, hello, hello, hello. One gentleman came out to meet her. She was like, oh, what's your name? And the two sisters was behind this wheelchair, looking at me like, who's this woman? We have no idea who this woman is. And I said, I told you, people are always different too. Let's be honest, because families are family. So family members kind of have the right to be fickle with their own family. And they can treat people a certain way that others outside the family won't treat them, and vice versa. So I think a lot of times you see families who are so scared because mom threw a knife at me, or mom threw this at me, or mom doesn't want to take our medication. But then they go into the building, into a community, and then they see someone who says, oh, hello, how are you today? And they have a conversation. Next thing you know, they're drinking their water with their pills. That's because you're
Yes.
her daughter. And now you're trying to transition
Right.
to a caregiver. And sometimes that's like oil in the water.
It's that transition from being
Yeah.
the daughter that I raised, and now you're the caregiver
Mm-hmm.
telling me what I can and cannot do. And I still want my independence. I still have,
Oh, sure.
even with
Yeah.
maybe even
Uh-huh.
dementia, I have moments of lucidity that I know who I am, right? And
I just have a
in
really,
your
really
current senior
kind
living.
of an emotional tie to memory care. And memory care is such a really a fickle beast in itself. And it's a shame because it's just, I've had people, and I'll still say that this is totally true, that the most sensitive cases of memory care is when you have a spouse come in, and the spouse literally will break down in my office, and I'm crying with them like, I'm so sorry. But it'll be a
Yeah,
spouse, and
you're
you'll
right.
see this woman who's a superhero because she literally says that I have not been out of the house in 5 years until today, and I just can't take enough. And she goes, I just have to sit here and breathe for a minute. And of course, I'm like, well, hell, what do you need? Alcohol? Do you need wine? And besides a box of Kleenexes, you're like, I mean, I gave her a hug. I mean, it is the most painful thing to witness and watch, and it's absolutely terrible. The most significant cases are those special memory care stories where you help them out. And not only, which is so important for memory care, not only are you choosing a home for them to exercise and help with the disease and help go forward or try to prolong it as long as possible, but also on the flip side, the good communities, the have a care support for the family members as well, which is so important because not only is the family now learning what this disease entails, but they're also now learning themselves how to cope with it, and realize that they're in there.
Mm,
It's a little foggier for them right now, but hey, this is what's proven to be great, and maybe you should visit in the morning, not visit in the afternoon. So just little things about how to get the best out of them, and to see those family members smile and have their parent or their spouse back for a while as they're progressing in this terrible situation is always just a pleasure. What's crazy about memory care is that these people, they're taking a chance on a stranger to take care of their loved one. But you have to go so much further than the patient now being a resident. You have to go back and
mhm.
what did this person do? What do they do for a living? And wow, and find out as much history as you can about them, because that's going to help you. It's going to help the families. The family's going to be appreciative because they're going to know what day their anniversary is, or XYZ, and celebrate that for them. So there's this one
Yes.
little lady, Miss Ruth, and Miss Ruth, honestly, she was, I think, 82 or something around that age. Beautiful woman, beautiful, and she had this beautiful, like, silver short hair. It had a lovely smile, and she was obviously very, very advanced stages of Alzheimer's. She could barely move. She'd had several strokes, and she literally was just kind of confined to her wheelchair. But two things she could work very well: she loved to smile if there was someone worth smiling at, and then she could move her feet on the wheelchair, and so she would get around in her wheelchair, and she'd kind of roam around the building and just kind of check out what's going on. And kind of find out this woman was the World War II pilot, and not only did she do that, but she also was an instructor for several years, which first of all is unheard of for a female. And going back to my Girl Scout roots, is that women power, and just having women that can do a man's job, and
Wow.
seeing someone back there break so many barriers, it was just phenomenal in its own right. And she loved
Yes.
men. So of course I would make a point to approach
Yes.
them though at their level. Her face would just light up when she saw me. But I had obviously had to get down to her level, and she just loved it. As you said, we had a brand new building, so we had
Um,
residents that transferred when the building finally opened, who transferred from the AL side to memory care side. There's about 14 of them. Within like 2 or 3 days, going back to having a system and having a routine, they learned exactly where my office was. They knew where their new room was going to be, their new apartment, and it was just amazing. And I would leave my door open, so she would make a point to like, once again, paddle her feet, and she would stop right in my doorway every day, every day. And as soon as I looked up, she'd shoot me a smile and she'd wink at me. And she would wink at me and blow me a kiss. And she'd paddle really fast off. And it happened. I called her my drive by. So she literally would drive by and she'd kind of blow me a kiss
Oh.
and she'd keep going. And I had to stop and think, wait a second, is she really fooling us? Because once again, and I love to use her as an example when I have families come in, because I would say, look, I said, she's still in there. There's times when that feeling makes her wake up and she realizes, I mean, if a woman can blow me a kiss and she hasn't moved in
Yes.
3 days, clearly she can do what she wants to do. And they get it, but they also feel a sense of an ease when they're like, wow, you're kind of right. You're not just blowing smoke. I'm like, well,
Right.
no. And I said, this is what can happen. This is what's been proven to make things better. And so, and like I said, we could talk about memory care all day long. I mean, definitely, my residents who I filled that building up with was definitely, each one of them was a little special gift, I would say.
Oh, that is so very true. It's
Of
true of
course, sure.
my life as well. Because we share that with our grandmothers, right? That we were close and that they both, passed with dementia. What do you think helped you in your career in senior living?
I give our former employer kudos because they don't play. They spend a lot of money on training. And as a matter of fact, I just got recertified yesterday with the Alzheimer's practitioner. But you could never stop. God, I sound like my mom. You could
Mm-hmm.
never stop
Mm-hmm.
learning and training and reminding yourself. And, we had a saying back at Girl Scouts, whenever you got really stressed, we had a thing that we would do is my director would say, you know what, take the rest of the afternoon, go to camp and go see the girls. And I'm like, that's just silly. But we would do it, and we'd go and see the girls, these thousands of kids. And I was like, you know what, this is what I need to remind myself what I'm doing. And it worked every single time. So you have to do the same thing with your residents. And there's times where you get frustrated or whatever.
Yes.
And
Yes.
hey, you go join them in an event or an activity, or just go talk to some of the ones that you know, and you just be surprised how much that changes you a little bit, and kind of gives you that energy bump up. Like, who needs a Red Bull? Just go see a senior, and you're good to go. But you have to be educated and you have to learn. But it's just a whole new world. If you do have a passion of what you're doing and helping seniors, no matter what, you want to learn more, because they become, like we said before, your family and your loved ones, and you want them to stay healthy and you want them to stay happy and you want them to live, forever, because you've now became like an extended family member. So we would do a lot of training, like I said, but even when people in the community or even a competitor was having like a lunch and learn or something where someone's speaking, because there's so many different avenues of senior living. There's legal, and there's attorneys, and there's planning, there's hospice, and there's just so many different things. You can never stop learning, and it's just that obviously has helped me, because when someone
Yes.
does come see you and a
Yes.
family member does come spend time with you, you
Yes.
you are a book of knowledge for them. And once again, like you said earlier, is that you educate, and that's what you do. You need to be a source of information for them, for no matter what. And
Yes.
and one thing I think that also has helped me too is that my style was never really pushy. Because you want to help every family. Let's be honest. I mean, everyone that comes in the door, you want to help them, no matter what their budget is. When it comes down to coming in and
Yes.
people finding out more from you, you may not get that sale today, because maybe the place down the road might be the best for them. But guess what? They still know who you are. As long as you do
Yes.
a good job and do your best, they're going to remember you for when they do need you. And luckily, I've had the pleasure of every community I've worked in has had assisted and memory care, or assisted in something else, or assisted in skilled. And I think, from what we've talked about previously with it being a different ball game 20, 30 years ago to versus now. And one thing I do love to see as we've evolved a little bit, I love to see the younger demographic of seniors come in, because I really feel like people who are 65 and older, or 70, whatever the case is, I really feel like they're a little bit smarter now, and now that stigma is breaking up a little bit. And now you see people, which is what I preach since day one. Now you see people who are moving in before they quote unquote need help, and
Yes.
but they know it's readily available if and when they need it, because you never know someone's gonna have a fall. I mean, you never know what's gonna happen. So be prepared. It's always one of those things where do whatever you can to prevent yourself and help yourself for the future.
Which is
Sure.
so true. I
Yeah.
mean, you touched on a lot of points when you're talking about the new
Mm-hmm.
aging, because
Yeah.
there are more people that needs assistance younger, unfortunately. And so having that
Mm-hmm.
foresight to say, I'm going to need help. I already been diagnosed with X, Y, or Z.
But you had a great point. But you said though about independence, and that's so important to involve that in the conversation because you're right. We do fear that we're going to lose independence, but exactly one of the points I make is that listen, and of course I always look at the adult children at the time. I said, listen, for the past 2 years, you have not been this person's daughter or son. You've switched your role to a caregiver now. I said, so if anything, and of course you're not giving up, because a lot of families automatically they pressure themselves, they beat themselves up with the idea that they're giving mom away because they're being selfish. I'm like, no, you're doing the smart choice. We're the caregiver, so you put your child cap back on, and then we'll take care of the rest. So we want to make sure mom has all of her independence as possible, and just like you would before all this transition happened when mom moved into your house for the past 2 years. But there's no reason, this is her new home, so you would do the same thing you did before. But we're taking the stress off of you, and you kind of see them like lose that 100-pound weight on their back a little bit. They're like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then mom's happy because, quite frankly, as much as we love our parents, but I know when my mom comes to visit, I'm like, all right, it's day 4, go home.
Yeah.
I'll come see you at Christmas. But it's true though. But once again, it goes back to the dynamic because it's like emotions are elevated when it's
Yes.
family to family communicating or being angry because they're so emotionally involved that it's nothing to scream or yell or to push. But to take all that burden off,
Right.
and give them that sense of relief to like, wow, now they can go and see grandma after church on Sunday, which is what they used to do, and then have breakfast or have brunch. And even times when family would come in, and I also loved because I feel like with memory care especially, I feel like you get a lot more family involvement or visitors, which is great because unlike AL, where they'll come in and they'll see mom, they'll go to mom's apartment, but in memory care, every family
That is
gets
very
it
true.
and they understand because the other family member that they've seen every Tuesday for the last month is going through the same exact thing. So having that similarity and that person that they can actually talk to, and you see their eyes connecting, like, wow, you get it too, and it's kind of lovely to be able to to see that and help out.
So that is the thing that I think about memory
Mhm.
care is that it's a shared journey. So the family members for memory care residents or memory care community, they're all going through the same thing. That's all similar. Where in assisted living, you do have families and you do have some that come all the time and stuff like that. And
Yeah, or
you
independent,
have the once a
sure.
week
Because even the ones that are too
when you say,
scared, and I have had those families where they're very shy and they're very private, and they're kind of scared to be a part of the support groups. But even seeing families that will walk up to other families who are strangers at the time and say, "You should join us for this," because they'll see, their struggle as well, which is it's amazing to be able to connect those people and have those similarities in common.
we're going to ask you a different question. It's a little bit of a different direction. Is what would you say for the person who's thinking about pivoting
Sure.
from where they
Yeah.
are now in their career? And
Yeah.
it's like, I want to get into healthcare. I see more and more communities popping up in my city.
If anything, it's going to be a growing field, and luckily, it has become a really booming business, almost too booming. Because I just said the other day that hey, assisted living is not even what it was kind of when I started, which was not long ago. That it's kind of like cell phone business. I mean, 20 years ago or 10 years ago, when cell phones were like booming, it was like, oh my god, I gotta get a cell phone, I gotta get a cell phone, and now everyone has cell phones. So what happens now? So you have competing businesses as to whose price is better, who's got the newest phone, and now it's pretty much a gambit of, okay, now which do I choose? Do I
Right.
need to switch where I am now? And there's just so many choices, but still you have your cell phone already, and that's kind of what AEL I feel like has kind of turned into or developed because now there's so many different options. So now it's not mom needs a AL. You get a lot more of she's not happy where she is. We're looking for somewhere else to go. So with that being said, that there's definitely job stability because there's so many different options for that. But I do think that this is a business that's not going anywhere, which was kind of music to my ears because I wanted to make sure that I was, safe if something was to happen, as far as the economy or whatever. But also with memory care, that's such a growing field. It's growing not in a good way, but there's such a huge difference. So, hey, you got to take a chance at some point. But I think it all goes back to what I said very early in the conversation was, if you enjoy helping people and you are good with communication and just being a human, that's terrible to say, but just being someone who is determined to be there for your elderly, and you respect them and it's a passion, by all means, I think it's one of the best things that anyone can make a decision for, is to get in this business. I think it's great. And once again, there's so many different avenues of senior living. There's so many different things you can do. I mean, let's talk about home health for a minute. I mean, that's another whole beast in
Yes.
itself.
Well, as all of us age, we need a community of support in aging, period. I mean, like, my eyes are like kind of funky right now. My hip is
Sure,
going. So it's all changing. And so that building that community around the aging is what's important, right? To keep
of
that
course. I
vitality.
mean, every family you talk to and you connect with, and when you provide them that solution and you help them, it's lovely at the end of the day to feel like I fulfilled, what I need to do today, and I can rest easy knowing that, I'm very happy what I'm doing. And it's one of those things where, and as someone would tell you, and this is always it's true, is that when you enjoy, if you enjoy your job, it doesn't feel like work. I mean, and I hate to say that cliche thing, but it's so true, because sometimes you're so busy and you're just doing it and you're doing your thing, or you're of course talking your day away and
Yeah.
you're visiting or you're touring, and then you're like, well, hell, it's already 4 o'clock. Where the day go? I have no idea. And then of course you realize I haven't eaten since 8. It's the name of the game. I mean, that's what you do. That sells. And so, and I think that overall, it's just lovely to look back and get in your car at the end of the day.
Yes.
And when I first started, I drove an hour to and from every day, like an hour and 15 minutes back. And I just got in my car and just, that was kind of my decompressed time. But for myself and personally for me, and me being a natural giver,
Yes.
it's lovely to feel like you're making a difference in someone's life. Like I said, I'm not a huge aggressive salesperson. There's definitely personality types for that. But even if I gave the person the right information and they decided to go elsewhere, I'm still doing what's right and what's morally right. I was also very big about doing what you like and being honest about, because I think if you're going to have a passion for something, you have to be truthful and you have to do everything correct and legal. And I think that it always still bothers me today. It still bothers me. Just the other day, I wanted to scream because there was a lovely lady that needs to be in memory care, but the family still wants her to have independence. And I'm thinking, this woman walked out of her house last night at 2 o'clock in the morning and she needs independence, but they still decided to go with an AL building. And I think about the salesperson I know there. I'm like, this is where it's not a good, this is where I can't stomach this at the end of the day. Like, even if I lose something, then I feel like I'm still doing what's right. And people with memory care, it's a whole different beast than a regular assisted living. And just for someone to get a cell and move someone in to somewhere where that resident really you're not providing the best care for her, it still drives me crazy. So those are the times that would keep me up at night. But guess what? That's why you don't burn a bridge. And I gotta say, I mean, I may have won an award or two, but I can honestly say though,
Right.
that was
Right.
not by me pushing people to sign a piece of paper. That was because I literally helped every one of those families, and sometimes at more communities than my own. And how lovely is that? And to be rewarded for something that I was doing right, and also financially rewarding too. And when I had my first chairman's club with you, I think I was number 40, 42 in the company, something like that.
Overall, but in your
Yeah. Oh,
category, number 6 or
which is
something.
pretty fantastic. But how lovely to go back and just be commended and appreciated for just doing your job right. Which, how lovely is that?
Right.
It's such a huge honor in my book, and it makes me know that I'm doing what I need to do, and that's a lovely feeling, because we've all been in those jobs
Right.
or those situations or careers that really weren't careers, they were jobs, and they were going nowhere. So to feel like I've built myself up from a lovely start from you, and see that chance you took on that crazy boy from Louisiana, clearly it paid off.
Yes, and I'm so excited. I'm so
Yeah.
proud of you. You were just like, "I don't know, but I know I can do it. If I know I can do it." And, to see how you have grown and developed.
To just, again, how proud I am of you and what you're doing, and how, and I think we're very similar too, is that I think our selling styles was very similar, and I think that's probably originally what you saw in me. But I think you see something in someone, and you know that good moods and good energy, in fact, infectious personalities, or charming people, or just people who are grounded, it's just like a magnet, I think. And I think luckily because of those little qualities or gifts, whatever you want to call them, families pick up on that and they see that. And I think you have an uncanny knack to do the same thing. So I just knew that meeting you for the first time, it wasn't like, what is this? What is this? What is this? It was like, okay, let's have a conversation. And I love that because that's the way it should be. And that's exactly what I do with my families. And I feel like that's the same thing that you've done with yours. And it was just great. And I still, hats off to you because you gave me a chance. And it was nice to prove everyone else wrong. But I will say it was really funny how I learned later on that they said from someone from corporate, they're like, oh yeah, that's right, because you filled up that building, and they literally said we thought that was never going to be filled up, so we really were shocked and impressed that you filled it up. And I'm like, oh, I'm glad that no one told me that they had no faith in anyone to fill up the building because they really thought that an $8 million investment was terrible. I proved you all wrong. Fantastic. Give me an award.
Yes. I mean,
Yeah.
when I tell you,
Oh
it
yeah.
was like, who okayed this? And it
Yes.
was left in my lap, like, okay, go at it. And I'm like, oh, crap. But the thing is, when you came in, because I do remember this, you actually initially
Well,
declined, I think, the position.
Well, and I think, and of course, I totally see where you're coming from. But on someone else's side, and was that interview process, as long or as short as it might be, it's a two-way street. So yes, you're interviewing for a position, and you're interviewing for someone to bring in, or a talent, or someone to fill this position, and blah blah blah. But for the other person on the other side of the table, you're looking at your next step in your career and your life. So you're making a life decision, and you want to make sure it's the right one. And so, even though, yes, it was not financially where I wanted to be, but I knew that there were still good things to come, and I just knew it in my bones. And so, but also the unfamiliarity of, is that a word? I think it is, of not knowing exactly what to expect, going back to a commission-based position. That was the little bit of nervousness and the fear, once again, that I had automatically, because I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, what if I'm terrible at the job? How am I going to put food on the table? So, but you talked me down from the tree, and I do remember you saying, or the ledge, what is it? I get these all wrong. So, but you talked me back, and you said, listen, because I promise this is what you can do. I know you have it in you, and you said I will make sure that you get to exactly where you want to be. And I knew at that moment that you were not only a boss or a director, but you were also a mentor, and you were someone who believed in me. And I just knew that this crazy lady, I just know you're going to have my back. And you always did. And that was lovely. And I think, once again, going back to your little kudos, is that you having a special knack of knowing weaknesses. You also know someone's style of work. So, and if you didn't hear from me 3 or 4 days, it was, are you okay, Spitale? What's going on? No, I'm good. And that's usually, if I was doing my thing, then you didn't really hear from me. But if I called you, you knew it was like, okay, what do I need to do? I think also a super, super huge, important part of growing and learning is having a good mentor. And let's just be honest. You have to have that person, but you also know you can't be micromanaged. You have to give someone let the kid on the bicycle for the first time, let them fall, make their mistakes, because it's their bike after all. And so you kind of get that little nudge, and I went off. But it was just nice knowing that I had that support when I needed to, and you were always readily available. So that was also very important. Am I getting paid for this? I'm teasing.
Thank you. You're so sweet. You are so sweet. Thank you. Kudos to you, to be very honest, because you worked really hard for that. Well, thank you so much, Daniel.
Congratulations to you, and thank you.
Thank you for listening to Outlive Your Life. My hope is the podcast will inspire and touch your life in some way while giving you a small glimpse of the benefits of working in senior care. If any of the podcasts resonated with you, please, number one, if you don't mind, just subscribe to the podcast so you'll be notified of future episodes. The second thing I'd love for you to do is to share it with others that you know so that we can grow our audience. And if it truly resonated with your heart, please leave a positive review so others can see why. And I read each and every one of them, so I'm very, very grateful for any time you take out of your busy schedule to do so. And if you're curious about careers or business opportunities in senior care or senior living, please be sure to contact me at tiffanyhillallen.com. Thanks. Until next time,
find new ways to outlive your life.